further ahead, but you can generally win it out. Now,
I
the
would love to
question
see,
is,
yeah.
will Bren Esports pick up the sword for themselves?
I'd love to see a Saw Koshka picked up by Bren Esports here. Koshka not being played at all in SEA, but Koshka is such a good Reza counter because he has a weak early game. You can snowball him ridiculously hard. But no, they're going to go for the Alpha, leaving Saw still available. They might go for maybe a weapon Idris, but that would be so tough. There aren't that many laners left that are good against Saw, especially weapon laners, unless they decide to go maybe weapon Sky. Even that is very risky. I think Saw makes the most sense, but Renegades will be ready to counter it.
Yep, and we'll see here with that of the Jewel being picked up. That is surprising to say the least, but I think if this means that if the side of Renegades want to pick up that sword, Jewel can just jump right on top of them with a rocket leap. Alpha goes in at the same time, and as long as they're synergized in that attack, you could even think about other things of into the late game when Lyra has Arcane Passage into right bulwark would be a good option, but they're going to step back. They realize Vox is on the table, and no reason they shouldn't pick him up.
Yeah, I was maybe expecting a Rona to go up into the lane against this dual alpha combo. It is a double melee comp. Rona, really good in 2.9, could have worked alongside the Reza, but they want to go for the kite with the Vox. Vox's resonance bounces do work well with a Churnwalker's chains. They combo really well together. So it's a smart pick. Obviously, they didn't want a second pick Vox because that would be easily countered by the Saw. So he's been let through the whole draft. No one wants to take this Saw in the end. There was Lyra and Churnwalker, the captain, so perfect captains to be paired with him. No one wants to play it in this game. I think the Vox can work well. The Reza can do really well against Alpha. But similarly, if you get Aftershock Dragon's Eye on Alpha, once you get a few stacks, you're going to be shredding through any form of defense. You can do four-digit damage numbers if you manage to get a few stacks up.
Yeah, and it really will be that of, well, who can gank the best, I would say. It's going to be this Reza trying to jump onto that of, I would at first assume Jewel being in the lane, so that would be the target, as going up against the Alpha. Really, you want to get in, you want to put burst damage down, and then you want to get out. Reza's quite an assassin in a lot of situations, but if they're able to hold the aggression on their side, then yes, you can stick in the fight and continue poking. But as soon as, if Alpha's going to try stick onto you, you do need to be kind of cautious as that Reza, who isn't always the tankiest of heroes.
Yeah, I definitely do think that Alpha versus Reza will be a very similar matchup in the jungle. Alpha has great chase potential, but Reza being able to just jump over basically every wall with that troublemaker, he's so hard to lock down and actually kill. Yes, you might be able to get his jungle, but you're unlikely to get that kill unless he wastes his troublemaker by clearing minions and using it to try and engage on you. Level 2 will definitely go in favor of Alpha. She has such a strong level 2 alongside this Jewel. That jump, there's not going to be a reflex block at level 2, so guaranteed to get a stun if you position it correctly. And if you get that on Vox or on Reza, they're probably going to get bursted very quickly.
Yep, and we will see that now as we're loading, just waiting to load into this match. We do have that a bit of a change up, I believe, on the side of Renegades as Uni, SNK, and Chingy for this match, I was told. And it looks like that change has gone through for the side of Renegades. They have swapped out that lane position and now moving back to that of Uni.
Yeah, well, all 5 players on the Renegades roster will be playing in 5 versus 5 in that show match in December. So makes sense in the 3 versus 3 to swap the roles around, make sure that everyone gets a go at playing, because it's not a main roster of 3 and 2 subs. They are really a team of 5 players, because they're much more focused on getting all the synergy together on all the players. But we are now loading into the House of Unfold for the second game. Let us know if you think Renegades is going to take this 2-0 or if Bren Esports will get 1 point out of this game at least. And so looks like it's probably going to be quite defensive from both sides. Even though there is a Churnwalker, you've got that Reza, you really want to hit level 2.
I just have a question as to why Renegades are still on the blue side. Because if I'm not mistaken, Renegades did play on that side initially.
I don't think this is intentional. That's probably somebody forgetting to swap sides. I'm not sure if we're going to have a restart that. It might make a difference, I guess. I think Shingy's wall jumps are slightly different on A side and on B side. I'm not sure. We're gonna have to wait and find out if we're just gonna carry on. Doesn't make much of a difference, or if that will be the game restarted. And so Bren Esports did start with the Elder Trio, but not looking to fight because Alpha at level 1 is terrible compared to Alpha at level 2. So it makes sense for them not to want to fight, and they did secure the Elder Trio. It's going to be slightly ahead in gold. Renegade looking to possibly gank the lane.
Yep, and we do see that here as they move up to the lane, and you can see SNK sitting in wait with that Churn Walker, and I'm not sure what Uni's doing there. They're just wanting to back us all. So they're having a bit of fun is all they're doing right now. Perhaps, okay, no. I think perhaps they want to see a reset happen. The players not really doing much. They seem to be just messing around. I'm not sure. They could just be, they ran out of credits to buy emotes and this is their budget. But no, there's going to be the surrender going through and we will see the reset.
Yeah, so they ran out of glory. Haven't got enough glory to buy those emotes. You just stand still and port home. That works as well. OP stuff stepping from Guessing X on the Lyra, and I think there we will be seeing a reset. It makes sense because it is different. If the bases are exposed, then Reza can actually jump over the B side base, so the A side base wall, but he cannot jump over the B side base wall with his Troublemaker. He can just about with another form Detonator, but that's a lot tougher than it is on the A side. So swapping sides is actually, it's not vital, but it is important to do. Make sure the game goes through properly and no one complains that no, I want a rematch because we were on the wrong side. I hope Argos Jewel is somewhere with me. Hopefully he's going to be here. We had a couple of technical difficulties yesterday, but it sounds like he's back.
Yeah, and I think it's better to get done earlier rather than later. And players realizing that, as you mentioned, not too big of a difference there, but we will go through with that. And so with that, I think that going into this next matchup, when we look at the team comps coming out, that of Lyra, Alpha, and Jewel on the side of Bren Esports, and Churn Walker, Reza, Vox on the side for Renagades, I would consider initially thinking that there would be the early game advantage in hands of Bren Esports, but both these junglers are quite similar in build path. They go for that aftershock first, and it's really going to be who can get that first, because then I think I could see a very good gank happening from the side of Bren Esports going in with that Rocket Leap. I mentioned it before, they're all going to be able to jump onto that of either the Reza or the Vox more likely. Whereas with the Vox, they need to play once again off the back of that Churn Walker, pulling people in closer to their range and stopping them from escaping and try and keep their aggression in their fights.
Yeah, I think I also was surprised that Alpha decided to go towards the Elder Treant first, as opposed to taking her backs and then rotating to it to try and do a team fight at level 2, because Alpha is so good at level 2. I really thought they would have won the fight, but you never know. Maybe they just want to make sure that they get that extra gold in their pocket, and then that's a very mean thing to say. Question Jewel.
Well, we are jumping back into this match once again, and I'm lost for words now. I'm a bit thrown off there, but we will jump back in. And we talked about that of which jungler needing to try and find their advantage. Well, not about which one, both of them going to be fighting for it. Do you think we might see some more in terms of 3-man rotations, putting pressure up in either the lane, or being able to securely take that of the outer Treant because of that being so important?
Well, it is definitely going to be different to the first game, because now both teams know what the enemy did at the first rotation. So now we might be seeing a slightly different rotation. Maybe Bren Esports can do the same thing, and I think it will be the same. I think Renegades don't want to do the level 1 fight because they feel like they will lose. But SNK, he's going to do the little sneaky play. I'm surprised he hasn't built a scout trap, because one play that you can do on captains is you do this play, sneak through to the enemy backs, and just put a scout trap in them. It gives you such important vision. And Bren Esports probably know that Churn Walker is up to no good somewhere.
Yep, and SNK on this Churn Walker actually going to go and take those backs. You can see he's got quite a quick clear, because even his own basic attacks, while the backs are chained up, will make the difference. He gets both of them, and I don't think Mr. Jim's able to catch him out, as they don't have a Rocket Leap yet.
Yeah. Nice plays from SNK. That's the thing, when teams know what you're going to do, you need you need to be prepared for that. Perhaps Guessing X should have picked up a contract or maybe a light shield so he could get that scout trap and know what rotations were coming. But it looks like that Bren Esports slightly behind now. Renagades are ahead.
Yep, and we see all 3 members from beside Bren up in lane for just a second, but Alpha is going to back, and Chingy already rotating to his backs as so. Now, I think that we talked about the early game. It's not so much important right now as it will come online as those first items get picked up. So that's the kind of early game I'm looking at here, but you can see SNK already harassing the side of Bren Esports.
Yeah, there's going to be quite a lot of damage put out, even though there is a Lyra for this Churnwalker, and Vox can easily outpoke a duel, especially early game. Guessing X is going low, but he's making sure that Mr. Jim is the one that's getting all of these heals, because Lyra, if she goes low, it's okay, she can run away, but Jewel needs to be able to outtrade this Vox. Shingy is going to try and secure the second Elder Tree, and Alpha is going to do a forwards rotation now, because the backs were taken by SNK, so that's slightly delayed Alpha's rotation as to what you would expect, meaning that Shingy is in a better position.
Yeah, Chingy able to take that outer tree, and Lemao going to... I mean, they were able to secure the first one, but in the end, the backs went over to SNK, so the gold favor is a Mav Renegades, even though it's just slightly about 500 gold. It's 6.2 over to Mav 5.8 right now, and they're going to be... I don't think in that much better of a position, but you talked about how that technically messes up Lemao's rotation on this Alpha. So I think that play alone is a lot more impactful than the gold advantage you get out of it.
Yeah, you see how Lemao's backs are up and nothing else is, because Churnwalker's now his back healing camp has spawned, but Shingy has already secured 2 rotations. He's waiting for the Elder, so Alpha is miles behind, and in the early game especially, that's really important. It means that Shingy will be able to rotate up to lane quicker. They're going to know when Alpha's in lane because they know when they took the jungle, and it's just going to be slightly delayed as to normal. So really much more impactful start from SNK than we might have expected. And Uni very, very passive. He hasn't shopped, and so he has to go back. But Shingy coming up to lane with Lemao.
Yeah, and there's going to be the pressure being put on from the side of Bren Esports, but they need to be careful. Churnwalker behind them does have the Torment to pull them towards the team, and it looks like right now that's where Mr. Jim wants to be with the damage coming out from these Thunder Strikes. Doesn't even have the Sorrow Blade just yet, but being very aggressive. Guessing needs to be careful because that damage is being shared at the moment between those chains. And there's going to be Alpha going in onto SNK. The first blood might happen here. They pick it up for themselves. And Chingy, probably the next to fall, but is able to troublemaker himself through the wall there, past the onslaught from Bren Esports, and get to safety. But the minions under turret, Lemao are just going to dive on in onto that box, and Chingy probably going to fall now. But up in another 3 seconds. Well, Alpha can do this rotation down into the jungle. I'm not sure if Chingy will get away here. They do miss out from the Rocket Leap, but they are going to get caught up in the Thunder Strike, and this could be a chance for Lemao to make back that lost gold.
Smartly, Shingy did what I would not have done, which is accept his fate and die. If that was me, I would have run through a shop, buy tier 2 boots, and carried on running away. Yes, it might have helped me, but it would have very much delayed an aftershock pickup. So he did the smart play, deciding that trying to run away there was not worth the risk and worth the hassle that it would have caused him. Vox, once again, picking up Poison Shiv because he's up against Lyra. This time it makes a bit of sense. But Jewel has got that Soul Blade now, so it's a big damage power spike if he can land those Thunder Strikes.
Yeah, a big damage power spike indeed. It's what I mentioned in the previous fight there, where I saw Mr. Jim already putting out a lot of damage, yet not actually having a Sorrow Blade on their hands. But we do see it picked up now, so which way the fight's going to go. Chingy as well has an Aftershock, so could be in favor of Renegades as they take down Alpha before they even have their Infinite Reboot back up. Guessing just having to try fight their way out of here, or run away I should say, with that of the Imperial Sigil, but it's not going to be enough, and Renegades take a fight back in their favor.
Once Shingy picks up that Aftershock proc, it's such a massive power spike for the Reza. It was good for Alpha to get Aftershock as well, but Alpha can't do anything when she's been bursted down without the Infinite Reboot. The nerf to Alpha's reboot actually hasn't been implemented in this game. We're on 2.9, but it was long enough so that Shingy had an ultimate and Alpha didn't. Uni gets that with a basic attack, and the game has restarted for unknown reasons. There was a slight bug that was happening in the loading screen, which is why you're seeing no skins picked up, but that was hopefully to try and fix it. Maybe there has been another problem coming through. So maybe we're going to see a second restart of the game. Woohoo.
Yay. And it was just getting exciting with the Aftershock pickups. That's really when we talk about that of the Alpha and the Reza coming on board. I think in terms of Aftershock pickup, though, and we talked about that being a very important item, the junglers having to rush for it both. They had it at the same team fight, so that's good for both teams there. The only problem being, I think Reza has more impact as soon as he picks it up. I think he has a lot more burst at his hands. Although Alpha, if they're able to stay alive long enough in the team fight, of course that's going to have a lot more impact on the Alpha. But Reza, just that initial burst is so massive, and they took advantage of Alpha not having that reboot up just yet, and Alpha got caught out because of the fact, and the whole team fight just flowed off the back of that, and they were able to get that initial turret away from them. But we'll have to see how it goes into the next match here. You think that going into this match, we will see SNK steal away the backs again? Or is he going to try it? Or are Bren Esports going to deny it? Or are they just going to start at their backs?
It's seeming like a Groundhog Day style game. We're going to keep restarting the game until you do your rotation right. And so maybe we're going to see slightly different decision. Maybe they're going to start at their backs. Maybe they're going to wait and hide and try and kill Churmwalker straight away. But we're going to have to wait and see what they decide to go for. Perhaps we're going to, perhaps it's going to be exactly the same. Churmwalker's going to do the same thing, and maybe Lyra's going to build a scout trap this time. Or maybe one of the junglers, Alpha, might pick up defense by themselves a scout trap to try and catch out SNK on that rotation. We're going to have to wait and see. But I do agree, Reza's Aftershock damage power spike is much better than Alpha's, unless the fight lasts long enough so that Alpha can use her ultimate. Because I think if Alpha had managed to have the termination protocol available, the fight would have turned in her favor.
Yeah, it would have definitely meant they had that second life to worry about, I should say, with the Alpha coming up with the infinite reboot. And though Chingy has burst on the Reza, I think that once that initial burst is used, you go wait a bit more for the second quite a bit. But they also went in with the Never Form Detonator, if I'm not mistaken, which is a great use of mobility and damage just going onto the backline. Then you trouble start in behind the enemy, especially if you're going up against the duel, you want to trouble start behind them and hit them in the back if possible. But we'll have to see when these teams are ready to load into the match, and it looks like they're going to be doing so. And nope, we're not seeing a Adagio pick up Lamau.
Might want to try a slightly different draft, but you can't really do the draft. It's the same draft. Maybe you can change your positions around. There's no rules that say you have to put Alpha in the jungle. There's no rules that have to say that the heroes have to stay in the same positions. But I highly expect we're going to see the same people on the same heroes, and it would be definitely something different if we see a lane Alpha just to try it out. Maybe for this third game, don't want to do the same thing because you were losing the last game, so switch it up. But that'd be if they were a bit more comfortable in their position.
Yep, and we are just waiting to see the draft go through. I'm not sure, maybe one of the players on the side of Bren Esports having some technical difficulties, but the draft will be reset for now. And while we wait for them to fix out their technical difficulties, that we've been focusing so much on these junglers. Is there another part you would like to focus on, such as the overall team comps of the builds coming out that would be expected of the duel and box and lane?
Yeah, Jewel's going to go Soul Blade into Tyrant's Monocle, probably Tornado Trigger, maybe another Tyrant's as her items. Very similar to what you see a Baron build, very similar to Weapon Petal, but maybe slightly less attack speed, because that crit, so important once you hit level 8, Overdrive the Thunderstrike, it can crit itself, so you don't need to use basic attacks to use that critical chance. Vox, very likely to go Serpent's Mask, it's Poison Shiv into Breaking Point, maybe a Tyrant's Monocle or Tornado Trigger as a third item, because he needs the Poison Shiv up against Lyra. Breaking Point is just a great item on Vox, especially in this patch before it's nerfed. And against the double melee comp, they're going to be surviving the fight for quite a long time. So if you can match that survivability, especially against an Alpha, if anyone gets a breaking point via Alpha, it's so good. You don't even need to kill her in a reboot, and you're going to win the fight after because you're stacked up. But hopefully, for the final time for these teams, we are loading into the Halcyon Fold, and we just have to pray that it's all going to work out.
Well, you say hopefully for the final time, but we're going to expect to see. It could be Bren Esports pushing it to a third match, but right now, if you're joining us recently, Renagades did win out the first game quite spectacularly with that of a Churn Walker, Saw, and Rhyme comp they had on their hands, and now they are moving into the Churn Walker once again, being picked up, and this time guessing, nope, you're not going to let SNK sneak on by you, so great rotation up to the lane there to make sure SNK didn't do so, and Bren Esports, the rest of them, at least Mr. Jim and Lim Hour, be able to go through their jungle rotation clearly this time, so maybe Alpha will be able to secure those mid camps a lot more often than Alder Triant, per se.
Well, honestly, this is a much smarter rotation from Bren Esports because there's no reason for Lyra to be at that Elder Treant. If you know the enemy isn't going to fight you, then Lyra's not going to be doing very much in terms of healing. She deals negligible damage to that Treant, so just put her up in lane. She can 1v1 Churn Walker because she has so much more sustain and a bit more damage than him because he can't basic attack from range, whereas Lyra can. So nice play from Bren Esports. They are now slightly ahead in gold because of that Elder Treant pickup. And as you said, Alpha's rotation, much better.
Yep, and there will be quite an aggressive push from the side of Bren Esports as they almost take down SNK. You talked about that before, without the range in his kit will be quite tough for him. And we see now Limau able to secure the second Elder Treant, and the first blood going over to that of the side of Bren Esports. I thought, I looked away from the lane for a second as I figured SNK were back, but I guess SNK did not, and they were punished for it because we talked about the advantage that Bren Esports have, but here comes Chingy on that Reza, going to get the return kill onto Mr. Jim, because we know when the Jewel is running away from a fight, it's quite vulnerable due to that perk only protecting the front. I believe it's 220 degrees, not quite sure on that one.
Yeah, but definitely when you're running away, they're going to hit you in the back, and it's going to hurt a lot more. I think Jewel, a bit too aggressive when diving turret. She took an extra turret shot than she really needed to, and still could have secured the kill on SNK. So that means when the rotation came up to lane, Reza could get the kill, and Churn Walker, with that tick damage per second on the hook and chain, will secure the kill onto Lyra. Reza has taken Alpha's jungle, and Alpha is not getting anything, not even going to get a healing camp, just going to get the Elder. Reza might even steal this away, which would be disaster for Bren Esports.
Actually, what happened there was Chingy rotated down to, we'll talk about after in case Chingy gets punished for that one, but was able to steal away the Outer Treant. And so in the end, not a complete loss, but Chingy actually misread the rotation coming through there. They went to Alpha's backs after Alpha had cleared them and rotated up. And I think Chingy was just like, well, Alpha's up in the lane rather quickly, yet my backs are still up. Alpha's backs must be. So they misread that because it actually started off with the side of Bren Esports taking that mid camp, the Outer Treant, a lot earlier, and so Alpha being able to be up in the lane a lot sooner than that of Chingy. And then so he didn't get anything out of Alpha's jungle, but he was able to scale that Outer Treant, and we will see guessing going fairly low. Chingy, as soon as he joins in this fight, really turns it around for the side of Renegades, puts Limauer into that infinite reboot stage, and I would suggest maybe Bren Esports backing out of this one, but you can see Mr. Jim on that Jewel definitely wanting to clear up this farm, and Chingy knows it. He's going to go on to guessing while Mr. Jim is a bit busy, and guessing probably now has to back another 7 seconds until that Imperial Sigil is available.
Yeah, that's a massive wave that Mr. Jim wants to clear. So smart decision from Chingy to actually just go in and fight when you know Jewel wants to farm. She's not going to do as much damage, and if she does, the minions are going to kill her. But Alpha, trying to run away from Reza, is going to go back towards Sentry.
Oh, and I think no, Chingy not able to steal that one, but they do have the support of SNK, and if they're able to kill them out before they get that reboot, should be alright, and they managed to do so, although the Crystal Sentry is up now, so they will be spotted out. They're going to be able to go onto the backs and perhaps clear those out. Mr. Jim with a rocket leap over the wall, trying to steal this one away. So while they're busy with Chingy in the jungle here, it looks like the turret will go down to that box. They managed to kill him, but I think Reza's sacrifice definitely worth it.
Yeah, certainly. Backs were secured by Bren Esports, but that's not as worth as your tier 1 turret is. This gives so much pressure for Renegades that they can now do. They can rotate through the enemy lane, through the top, through the moustache bush, down towards the jungle, down towards the sentry. Alpha has picked up her aftershock at the same time as Shingy this time. Alpha was slightly ahead of Shingy before, but not in this fight. And in the team fights, Bren Esports are just diving that tier 1 turret way too much. Alpha put into reboot by the turret duel, almost died to the turret in the previous team fight. Shingy did get the kill, but they need to be way more careful when they're trying to secure these kills.
Yes, definitely need to be a bit more cautious, because right now Renegades with the advantage just by one more kill, but as well as that objective in their hands. Although a few hundred gold in favor, or it was just a second ago, it shows how quickly that can change up. But Chingy might get caught out once again stealing or trying to steal away some farm. Here's going to be the engagement coming out from beside Bren Esports as they go onto Chingy. Chingy could turn around with the never formed DNA in a second if he chooses so, but his team just very lane focused, objective focused for now, will continue pushing.
Yeah, there's not going to be that much of a team fight. Shingy not level 8. He's actually overdriving his, not his Scorcher, which I would have expected on Reza. He's overdriving that Troublemaker, so slightly different playstyle. A lot more about running around the fight and dodging as much as you can. So now Vox is going to rotate up to lane, forced to use the boots to defend this turret, because all 3 members of Bren Esports trying to push the wave. Alpha, dive in.
Also to help SNK game fairly low there, but Chingy going to dive in, picks up a kill onto the Lyra. It's going to follow through with a Troublemaker onto Lamau, forcing out the Infinite Reboot, the Termination Protocol, but it's not going to hit anyone, and they get bursted down before they can really put that into use. And you talked about Chingy's overdrives there, although not being level 8 just yet, where they're putting the points into the Troublemaker. I've also had that conversation with multiple people that when looking at what should you overdrive on a Reza, there's the Troublemaker really provides that mobility, and a lot of sense is a big source to your damage alongside the Aftershock, whereas overdriving that the Scorcher first will give you that range on it. So I'm personally more of a Troublemaker guy to go for that first after seeing it. So there is definitely different ways to play him, but I think in terms of builds, it still remains fairly the same. You go for the Aftershock, and then you get the damage to back valve, whether it's the Shattered Glass or the Dragon's Eye.
Yeah, I like to see Broken Myth on Reza. That's a way better build than Shattered Glass in this patch, because Reza has such low CP scaling on his abilities that even if the enemy has only got an infusion for defense, Broken Myth still does more damage, still does more work, even if they haven't got any shielding. And Alpha, with that kinetic shield, means Broken Myth is really going to help shred through that. But now, we're going to see a bit of pressure in lane. Renegades is trying to put a bit of pressure down. Shingy level 8, whereas Lane Mao are only level 7, so we might see a fight for them. But then again, Mr. Jim is level 8, but Uni is level 7, so very, very even between the teams. Somehow, Renegades have got themselves a 1.5k gold lead from nothing, really. They got themselves a gold mine, and that just pushed it way in their favor.
Yeah, definitely. We looked at the goal difference before. After taking that initial turret, really was negligible. They were basically even, and now they have a slight gold lead in their favor and could start to push that a bit more. As you mentioned, even in levels where Chingy had that level 8 before Lim Hour, but didn't go in for a fight. Now has the level 9, so almost a whole level. It looks like at least half a level ahead of that of the Alpha on the enemy team. There's going to be Mr. Jim jumping in onto Uni, misses the stun, and is going to get punished for it. Chingy's positioning right up behind them. It's going to be good enough to get the damage down and pick up the kill for Uni on this Fox, but Uni getting chased down by Lim Hour needs to be careful. They need to fight a bit more as a team, because Chingy is being focused on guessing. Looks like they'll get the kill in the end, and now they can at least go into the 2v1 against Lim Hour, who still does have that termination protocol up. So Chingy need to be cautious. I talked about this before. A longer team fight will go in favor of that, of the Alpha. And you mentioned that's why a Broken Myth pickup is all right, because going into building the stacks onto that to shred the shield, but Uni does not get caught up into the explosion of that termination protocol, but Lim Hour, relentless, isn't going to back out just yet, and we see that Mr. Jim is alongside them, so they could go for some turret aggro here, but no minion wave, so they're going to have to wait just a second more for that.
Yeah, I think the Limao's working towards a broken myth. I don't like that on Alpha. I think Dragon's Eye is way better, but Reza jumping in to kill the wave may go on Alpha.
When Alpha does not have that infinite reboot perk, you can see Chingy just taking advantage of it, picking up the kills, picking up a double kill for himself, in fact. And really, it's a shame to see because Bren Esports had a bit of an advantage there, but Renegades go and take it right back from them. And now looking at that gold miner, they're going to go and take that as well, pushing that gold lead even further than where it was standing before. And we talked about builds, and especially focusing on these junglers because they're really the ones going in, putting down the main sources of damage for these team fights. And I agree with you there. Alpha should go for that of a Dragon's Eye. When I play Alpha, I play Aftershock, Dragon's Eye, and then depending on how much I'm winning or losing, I will either go for more offensive items or pick up a defense item, or at least start working on defense after you've built those initial two tier-free CP items.
Yeah, it's just that Dragon's Eye does so much work on Alpha because your entire playstyle is get 3 core charge stacks, then go in with the massive prime directive. So Dragon's Eye is 3 core charge stacks. Okay, you do core charge basic, core charge basic, core charge basic. You've just had 6 stacks of Dragon's Eye, maybe 5 depending on how quick you are at using them. But that's so much crystal power that you get. The prime directive is going to do so much work. They're forced to back away. You can keep your stacks up with the core charge, and then your ultimate, if they stand anywhere near you, going to get deleted. Yes, you lose all your stacks after you use the ultimate in most cases on Alpha, but it's so worth it for that prime directive. But we're going to wait and see how this fight goes.
Yeah, Big Red Bun being used on this duel, not too effective being a weapon power duel. But look at this, once again, Renegades buying time. Chingy was up pushing that lane, but they're going to go in for the engage. Trespass was used but blocked out. Uni forced out of the fight, and they're going to turn it around on Chingy. And this is the thing that I mentioned, Reza being quite squishy when he is focused down, needing to be careful. And this fight is going to go in favor of Bren Esports. So surprisingly so, it looks like they were able to separate them early, and Uni going down low meant that SNK's focus was really on keeping them off Uni, but meanwhile Chingy got caught out on that back line, and they were able to take a turret finally for themselves. It hasn't put that gold lead back, however, as they're still sitting at 25.8 over to 28k, so Renegades still with the advantage here, both in gold and kills.
Looking back at Uni's build, I always complain that Vox is Poison Shiv, but this game I gave him a free pass to build it. You're up against Lyra, it makes perfect sense to build Poison Shiv, but Uni goes, no, I'm going to go Breaking Point into double crit. I'm going to go Breaking Point, double Tyrant's Chronicle Tornado Trigger. No Poison Shiv being picked up, so Lyra's healing at full effect. Looking like she's going to get an echo soon, so it is risky for Renegades to do this because they have nothing to stop the healing from Lyra. Vox deciding that wanting to just stack up as much damage as possible is better against this Alpha.
Yep, and we will see some rotations coming down. All teams rotating completely together now that we see even a Crystal Infusion being picked up onto SNK, and Chingy picking up his own box already with that level 11 Infusion. So they are looking ready to fight, looking ready to win this one out, and they're going to jump onto the duel early on. The Never Formed DNA doesn't land, however. There's going to be the Arcane Passage for guessing to get away, and Lim Hour using that Termination Protocol, not too sure about it. It does give you the fortified health, but look at that, Renegades, they don't care about fortified health. Like any other to them, when they have no one attacking back at them, they're just going to go and put down the damage on their own Trespass, catching out that of Mr. Jim and guessing. Echo Trespass, catching them out, but they were able to get the Rocket Leap back into base. So Renegades using a lot of resources there, but they managed to get a kill and a turret out of it. Do you think it's worth it? I mean, they're going to go, and it looks like take the gold mine as well. So taking a second thought there, I think it was.
I don't think they're going to get anything out of it because Shingy was forced to back to the base and Uni got routed by the tree, so they're not going to get this gold mine in time. But getting a kill on Alpha, getting that turret, definitely worth it. Yes, they used a lot of cooldowns, but Echo is still not been nerfed in this update, so it's actually on a much shorter cooldown than it would be in 2.10. But they still want to fight. Trespass is available.
Oh, they're jumping onto SNK early. Bright Bulwark comes out, but it's not going to stop a never formed air. Jewel happens to find Uni on that box, picking up a kill. And now Chingy probably has to back out of this fight. We can see Imperial Sigil keeping Mr. Jim and Lim Hour very much alive. And SNK on his own, really nothing you can do as a Churn Walker. You need your teammates there because his kit plays so much around that. And we're going to see Bren Esports go for this gold mine. But meanwhile, Chingy pushing the lane. Could be looking for a turret. I think that he won't get it, but neither will Bren Esports. They will not get the gold mine before Kraken comes up.
That is a disaster for Bren Esports. The lane was pushed into turret, so they were half thinking about that. They couldn't just take Kraken as soon as it spawned because everyone was back up. It would have taken them too long. And they don't even get the gold mine, so the gold swing is not in their favour. So Renegades take a fight at, I guess, the perfect time, because you're up in time to stop them taking Kraken and they don't have time to take the gold mine. So maybe that is the exact right time to die if you ever want to figure out when a good time to die is.
Yep, and we will see that right now both teams are looking for this Kraken, positioning themselves around it. SNK pulling some vision down there, re-infusion coming back up for that of Uni. And we do see infusions across the board in response to that from the side of Bren Esports. So they're both very ready to fight here. And it could go either way as we've seen these fights back and forth for now. And it looks like Bren Esports going to back away from the lane, giving advantage to Renegades. Hook and chain does not land onto Mr. Jim. But Alpha, I'm not sure about this because it really, Renegades, if they have the opportunity, will push for lane. There's going to be the Imperial, the Arcane Passage into the Bright Bulwark, but the Trespass coming out, putting Guessing very low. Fountain used for the side of Bren Esports, but they're going to pick up the Jewel. Uni will probably fall to that of Limauer, but Limauer not able to get the Termination Protocol off, but will get the reboot. Now, looking at Chingy versus Limauer, if only Limauer had Dragon's Eye, they could consider fighting this one, but just Guessing also very low, taking some damage from that of the Churn Walker's perk, being able to share the damage between that of Limauer and Guessing. They need to back off from this fight. Limauer using that Prime Directive into the bush, but a second too late as Chingy going to back out. So both teams respecting each other as soon as the laners were out there.
Yeah, I am really disappointed that there isn't a Dragon's Eye on either of them. Now Shingy can pick up a Dragon's Eye third item. I think that would work out well. It looks like he's going towards it. But Limauer needs to get that Dragon's Eye to win these fights because it'll be so easy for Alpha if you just have that stacking damage. You have a Lyra Sigil to keep you alive. There's no Poison Shiv to reduce healing. So the fights are going to last a long time. It's all about how much damage can you stack up over time. And the Dragon's Eye would just be so good for that. But Vox catching out Guessing X. Was that a mispositioning?
Ooh, I didn't actually quite catch that one there. I was looking at the builds and thinking to myself of, as we were talking through those builds, of course, Lamau picking up that of the Atlas Pauldron, trying to shut down Uni as Uni jumps onto Mr. Jim in a lot of these fights. But I'm not sure. Really, Alpha could be their own threat on their own and doesn't need to worry about babysitting Mr. Jim, in my opinion. But it's the decision they've gone for. I don't think they're going to be able to get the steal on this Kraken, and they won't. So it goes over to the side of Renegades, who already have the turret advantage by 1, and definitely the gold advantage in their hand by about 3k, sitting at 3.91 over to 36.4.
Mr. Jim is Glass Cannon on this duel, 4 damage items, Solar Blade, double Tornado Trigger, and a Tyrant's 100% crit, so not a chance, it's guaranteed. But it's going to be tough for Bren to defend this, as there is only 1 turret between them and the base being exposed. I think Renegades will be able to push pretty well, but Bren Esports are really tough at defending because if Jewel isn't within basic attack range, she deals not very much damage.
Yeah, and we will see that of Renegades pushing onto the base, and Mr. Jim jumping very far back to just use that big red button. Of course, they won't get back to base to get the infusion as well, and they're looking to fight here, but they've given up that anchor turret already, and Kraken still over half health pushing onto this first of the last 2 turrets. There's going to be the Trespass for Never Formed DNA, and Chingy on that res, going to take out Lyra instantly. Mr. Jim going to fall second to that, and then Alpha more than likely going to go down. They do get the reboot, but I don't think it will be enough for them to get back to base, but they're still calling a 3v4 situation if you count 1v4 situation if you count the Kraken being on the team for the side of Renegades, and they're going to take that finally 2-0. And what a game that I think Renegades' initial performance was a lot cleaner, but we talked about draft, and I think the draft was a lot more even coming into this match, and that's where you could see a bit of breathing room for the side of Bren Esports. But we talked about the mistakes really being in that